Lise Lott is the chairperson of the board of directors with Blood Cancer Verband. And I don't know if I say that quite correctly, but that's how I say it. And she's been working with the group since I think 2015, but the group has been around for a very long time. They are working in all blood cancer, so they're not specifically only for CLL. Lise Lott herself has a different type of a blood cancer, and as does her father, so that's her connection in, but still is a very dedicated advocate for blood cancer patients in general. So I'll let you talk about your organization.
Yeah. Like Lorna said, my name is Lise Lott Eriksson, and I'm the chair of the Swedish Blood Cancer Association. I was elected to a chairwoman in 2015. So, and before that, I've been with the organization since 2011. I was diagnosed with essential thrombocythemia, an MPN disorders. And 2 years before that, my father was diagnosed with myeloma. So that's the reason why I got engaged in this. We have the Swedish Blood Cancer Association. We have 14 local organizations under Blodcancerförbundet. And we contribute to blood cancer research. We had a fund, Blodcancerfonden, and we work a lot for good and equal care. We do a lot advocacy work, interest policy, and we have some project about patient-reported measurement, patient preference. I will talk a little bit more about that, and cancer rehabilitation. And also a lot of knowledge, spread a lot of knowledge about blood cancer. We have diagnose specific days. We have a member magazine, HEMA, a newsletter that we send out every month. And we have diagnose specific information, brochures. And we have our web page, and we are very active in social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Is your magazine and newsletter online, or do you actually mail paper things
The
out?
magazine is a magazine that we mail, and we have an email newsletter every month as well. The magazine comes out 4 times a year. So 2015, when I was elected as a chair, we had 3,100 paid members. Today we have 4,250 paid members. When I say paid members, that is the reason we need to have paid members to be able to apply for state funding.
They pay you.
Yeah, they pay. They pay the local. They pay. They pay the local organization to be in the local organization, but that is a need to be state funded. And
do you mind asking, how much do they pay to be a member?
about 200 Swedish crowns, which is about 20 euro.
For
Not
the
too much.
year?
Yeah, for a year. So it's not much at all. We had 1.5 permanent staff employee. Now we have a little bit more than 2 permanent staff. We didn't have any project going on. Now we have 4 project employees. We had 2 diagnosed specific days for patient. We have about 7 now. We didn't run any projects of our own. Now we have 7 interest policy advocacy projects going on. We had contact with 5 partners. Today we have about 15 partners that we collaborate with. We had 3 communications channels. Now we have 7. And monthly givers, that for our fund, Blodcancerfonden, We didn't have any. Now we had about 100. We had patient support buddy system. Now we still have it, but we have improved it. And we have also patient caregiver support groups. We have a lack of money this period, you can see. Now we have
Surplus.
yeah. Anyway, the most challenging part in our organization has been the board. The board doesn't want us to work with advocacy work. No. Yeah. They don't think we need it. Advocacy work you don't need. It's better just to sit and drink coffee. Yeah. So that has been the most challenging part, actually. We had the money, but, and this is just here how the staff is divided, and here is the project employees that we have. So, anyway, our funding resources are we are funded from the state, and that's why we need to have members. We also need to have local organization. You need to have a special amount. You need to have 14 local organizations, and we have exactly 14. So we're a little bit afraid when a local organization say that, oh, we don't want to, we don't have enough resources to be a local organization anymore. And we have also money from the Cancerfonden, which is a very, very big organization in Sweden. They have such a huge sum of money. And I was lobbying so much to them that we need money. All the cancer organizations in Sweden, all the advocacy group need money. Okay, you can have education. We don't need education. We need money to do the work that we want to do. We have also been funded from Arvsfonden and Hedlunds stiftelse and a lot of other kind of funds and so on. And we do a lot of collaboration with the pharma industry, but under very, very stricted regulations, I would say. We got money from Impact Heme, from Celgene. We were very surprised, but we were very happy, because that way we could continue the project with shared decision making and doing a preference study, patient preference study. We got money from the MPE scholarship to do a day and IMF grant as well. So when we had this problem with the board, Christian and me, we said, okay, we'll do a member survey to see what our members really wanted us to work with. And the board was furious. You can't do a member survey. You cannot do a member survey. We did it anyway. So the member survey showed that what our members wanted us to work with was access to new novel treatments. Yeah, and cancer rehabilitation. And that was 2017. Then we did the survey again 2018. And I would say interest policy advocacy work has just grown. Our members just want us to work even more with this issue. So, and access to new treatment, that is really, and patient rights. Number 2, diagnose specific days, patient-reported measurements, cancer rehabilitation, patient support, research, information, HEMA, our member magazine, and relative support. And here is just some pictures of what activities that we have been doing.
What are the numbers in brackets?
6,4.
Just ranked. You could rank, or we have all these we have all these 9, and you could rank them. So yeah,
It's 6.4
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
Europe
Yeah.
instead of the comma instead of the period.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
This is the board sitting drinking coffee, right?
No. Yeah, of course. No, that is roundtable discussions that we have been having with politicians and everything. I will come back to that. This is the project patient-reported measurement. We have a girl, and she has been employed, and she has been with our group now for I think 2 years. And she has been doing a report with about 70 deep interviews to come up with. And now she has been, here is all these kind of things that are important for patients in contact when they get diagnosed and their travel through their whole journey. And now the next step is to share decision making and patient preference to continue what really patient need, because now we have from that report we really know what the patient's needs are. And also we have got money to a project for doing a rehab platform, here a group and a workshop, and then to have this rehab platform done. And some other projects that we have been doing in the advocacy field is in Sweden. I will come back to that. When we have problems, the state just put on new investigations, a new investigation, and a new investigation. And we were so fed up with this and tired, so we said, no more investigations. We put up 6 roundtable discussions all over the country, in different regions in the country. There were politicians, policymakers, payers, us, the academia, and the pharma representatives. We invited for this kind of roundtable discussions. And we have some finishing seminars in Almedalen, which is a community in July, by the first days in July, where it's kind of a politician arena where we discuss all these kind of things. And it was access to novel treatments and research and clinical trials. And then
how do you get those politicians to come to your round table?
no problem, the politicians always come. But when we had this next continuation, the way to a deep response, actually,
And what means
the ones
no more investigation? What does it mean, no more
It-
investigation?
we want everybody to work. We don't need no more investigation to just set up and see what is the problem. And then we put up a new investigation to see what is the problem and what is the problem, because we know, yeah.
I'm sorry, just payers, is that are those the patients?
No. Yeah, I mean the ones that pay for the drug and everything to access to, yeah.
Oh, like
To, yeah.
decision makers.
Yeah, decision makers,
Gotcha.
yeah. So this was the continuation that, you know, that we always talk about the problem to get access to drugs, and we need to get access to drugs in an earlier line and so on. So we called it the way to deep response, because we wanted to inform everybody that you need to a deep response to be able to have a better continuation. And we set up 3 new roundtable discussions and everything. But the problem, and focus on access to treatment. The problem this time was actually that the physician, they were not allowed to come to the meeting because of the pharma industry was in the room. So that was the real problem, yeah. And we really try to set everybody together because we think that is the only way that we could move forward, actually, if everybody is in the same room. So this is just what everything about this, but that was what actually was the purpose for the project, the way to a deep response. And this is also what I always talk to our members about, and they are really so interested, actually. And what I also talk a lot about is that here, this picture is from Bettina Rill, and I'm just a fan of her. Here, you start with the part of clinical trials, and here is the black period, actually, before this HTA has set up, and we finally have the drug reimbursed and recommended. So, and everybody, all our members, they are really so interested in this, and they just want us to work more and more about. This is, in Sweden, we have a national structured introduction of drugs. And before we had this, it was several years ago, there were only this, three boxes you see, before drugs were recommended. And now we have all this, the system, we have TLV, which is supposed to do the cost-effective evaluation of new drugs. And then we have NT-rådet, which is supposed to recommend the drug. So if we only had this, it would be good. But look here. This is how it really works. The state put on an investigation, a reimbursement investigation, in 2016. And we had the result at the beginning of this year, and this was by the end of 2017. He said, it was supposed to look like this, but actually, this is the way it works. And you could see, it's such a mess. It's a totally mess. And although we finally get most of the drugs reimbursed and recommended, it takes such a long time. And the losers, of course, the patients.
Can I ask you
Yeah?
what your thinking is? Why? What is the motivation about this complexity? Is it political? Is it to delay? Is it for pharmaceutical companies to make money? Apologies to pharmaceutical companies in the room. What's your own personal thinking of why it's so complicated?
I would say that's just the way we do it in Sweden.
I don't agree. I think you'll find many countries have that level of complexity. I don't think that's unique to Sweden. Maybe the boxes are in different places, and maybe there's more over one side, but I think that level of complexity exists.
But if we talk to everybody, we all agree that we shouldn't have this system. I would say the only ones that don't agree is NT-rådet. But everybody else agree. The politicians agree. No, we shouldn't have this system. They agree. So I actually think that in Sweden we do things more complicated than we really need to. We are specialists in that, and we are specialists in putting on new investigations. We are. We are such a good country. Yeah. We are best in the world in that, I would say. And I don't like that. So, also, I try to, this is the 6 different regions in Sweden. And we take statistics of how new drugs are being used. And this is really interesting, because when you see this, you can see that the part of Sweden where they are using the drugs most is the part where they have clinical trials. Yeah, and this is really interesting. So, and I also try to, and we talk about real world data, making it to real world evidence, the understanding, and to use it in decision making. And this is also something that I'm really concerned about, because in Sweden we get, they try to involve us in everything. We got invitation to everything to be in the group. It's just that they want to put a box, check in a box. Yeah. Now we have the patient. Oh, that's so good. We have the patient perspective. Yeah. But what we are really concerned about is patient influence, where we can be in a group to have a real influence, to make it active. So what we want to do now is we have applied, this is our latest project from Vinnova, and we really hope to have it, to be funded, to a project where we could actually have influence in the HTA process in Sweden. We have used the parties model, and it's about a project. So we really hope to have that supported so we can work on that, because that is what we really want to do, to have influence in the process. And I think when you ask that, I think that is the part that is really needed in,
Are you saying at the moment
Yeah.
you have no involvement in HTA at all?
No, we don't.
We do, and we sort of do, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, we do.
Yeah. And in Sweden, if they want they have kind of, I don't really know how to explain, but if they want to ask a group of something, they ask another group. So if it is a drug, let's say a drug for prostata cancer, then they could use members from the breast cancer organization. Yeah, which is, it doesn't make no sense at all, because you shouldn't be you shouldn't have involvement in the right place. And we are saying you need to have an influence in the right place, because that's where we can do something. So of course.
Why is that though? Like, what's the motivation behind that? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Because they don't think that we should have that influence.
Okay.
Because we just talk for ourselves. Yeah, I just talk for my.
Okay.
Yeah, for my purpose, and we can't see over. And
So
I'm
this explains why your board said you shouldn't be doing patient advocacy, because that doesn't seem to be the way that people think.
yeah.
Get down there.
But it's not our board telling.
No.
Same concept.
It's the same. Yes, it's the same argument. Yeah.
So I'd be interested if there's anyone here who there's lots of patient involvement, but is there real patient influence? Does anybody feel
That's a
that?
different matter.
I think most definitely.
Okay.
I certainly in the UK, there have been instances where a patient's voice actually changed the decisions.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're trying to do.
I've heard about that, and I always lift actually UK as a good example, and I'm also lifting Denmark as a good example. So
We'll talk tomorrow about the real example of summit
Yes.
that we did in the UK.
Yeah, there's a few examples
Yeah.
tomorrow in the session about people that have been successful and what that looks like. So,
But they can be tricky though.
yes, I'm not saying it's easy, but that's
No.
tomorrow's
But
discussion.
it could be to the detriment of other groups.
But let's let Lisa finish for this because we are running out of time
Yeah.
and we haven't
Yeah.
really had any.
I think that was it.
Oh,
So,
okay. So, a couple of years ago, when I was talking to Christian, he had mentioned that they had lots of ideas and they had actually been able to secure funding. But for them, the obstacle was actually getting their board to approve and move ahead on some new projects. So there was that tension within the organization about the priorities. And so what I liked with what your group did is you actually went back again to your patients, your members, and said, wait a minute, we have all these different things. What do you really think is our priority? And I think that's a really good answer for anybody if you have stumbling blocks within how you're functioning as a group within your board, is to go back to the people you're trying to help, trying to serve, and find out what is their biggest priority and if it matches some of what you want to do. Now, they could have come back, with a patient, with the patient saying they wanted them to do advocacy because they want access to new drugs. And Lise Lott could have looked at that confusion that's happening in Sweden and saying, oh, I don't think so, right? Because it seems mammoth. But they are finding ways that they can have some influence at different levels and at least trying different things to try and get people talking to each other and seeing if they can resolve some of those issues, which I do think is impressive. The fact that even if, with compliance issues, you can't necessarily get the doctors around the table, but you could get all of those other players around the table is good. It doesn't mean that everything is going to result in an immediate improvement, but you're starting to make those connections and starting to get people talking to each other to resolve some of these bigger issues that you're seeing. So, good for you for at least attempting to do that. All right. But these were just two examples of where organizations have really well defined who they want to be and what their priority is going to be, so that they can have some impact. Figuring out who else is working in the space, figure out who else they might be able to partner with to make those things happen. None of this is easy. I'm not trying to make it seem like, just because you have a goal is going to be easy to accomplish. But what it does is it lets you weed out some of those other things that distract you along the way, right? I know from the work that we do, we get invited to do many different things. And we then circle back all the time to our strategic plan and look at it and say, not saying it's not important, I'm just saying that that's not a focus for us right now. We'll look at it in the future, or we often will recommend and saying, we know this group is involved with that, maybe you want to have a conversation with them. But if you're really passionate about, as a group, about accomplishing certain things, focus your resources there. Your passion is going to come through not only to the people that you're trying to help, but also those people that you try to get funding from, for sure. And so if you're trying to do something that you're not passionate about, that also comes through and not to your advantage, right? And the other thing is, if you spread yourself too thin, you don't do any one thing very well at all, and then you also serve yourself to a big disadvantage because people don't think you do anything well, right? They look at you as a mediocre organization because everything you do is not done to the best of your ability. So really, as much as you can, focus. As you do something well, then add more things and grow yourselves that way. You'll just do so much more better than trying to bite off the whole big piece of pie at one time. But questions. I know we were actually at the end of this going to get into some breakout kind of discussions around what your own issues were and have some group discussion, but we ran out of time, like we seem to do with many things, and it's good because there was lots of dialogue as we went along. But we only have like 5 minutes now. Vandana.
See, in a country like India, where we have limited number of support groups or patient organizations, there are times when you know the needs of the patients is very large.
Yes.
So how do you tackle that? Because then either you spread thin to be
Yes.
able to do that, but if you spread thin and as you said that you become a mediocre organization, so then at that point what should your focus be? Should it be leaving out some things and concentrating, or trying to do, because there are many areas in which patients need help?
I know, and it's hard to say no to patients, but I would go with your first option, which is you leave some things out and focus your resources where you can have a lot of impact. Whether that's a geographical region, so you can only help people in a certain part of a city, especially where your population is so large, that might be, or if it's only a certain portion of patients that you can support with certain things, that is probably going to be your best bet than trying to answer everybody when you just don't have the capacity to do it. I know you end up disappointing some people, and I know that's really hard to do, but if you spread yourself too thin, you're actually disappointing more people, probably, truthfully. Does that help? I know it's hard.
You know, because the resources, I mean, she mentioned that, you get together with other organizations and you
Yeah.
work on those resources. But if you don't have the organizations,
Yes.
then the issue comes up.
I understand what you're saying, yes. But you can't make other people create organizations just to help you either, right? So it's like, really, is there anybody? And if there's not, then sometimes you're it. You are the champion. So you make little incremental steps and gradually build them. That's probably a better choice. Hi, Brian.
So I wanted to, you brought up the board issue, and you mentioned the board stuff too, and that's one of the things that that we've struggled with, is how to strengthen the board and work with the board. And I just wondered if you had any strategies that you were looking at to try to make a board that was going to advance your agenda. And also, and this is a big thing in the US, is a board that's, there's it's give or get is a common thing. They have to give money to the organization, or they have to give skills, like a lawyer's skill, or a doctor's skill, or an accounting skill, or some kind of skill. So I'm just wondering where you're going with your board in terms of fixing the problem you have. And other comments people might have,
Yeah. We have tried that, and recently we just elected a new board in 2019, actually. And when we have our last kickoff, we did the same member survey that we have did from our members to the board, and then we put up the result, just comparable, to see this is what our members want, and this is how the board thinks, what the board thinks what we should do. And that was really interesting, because then they just could see, okay, maybe we are not so representative from what the members want us to do. And that was a really good thing, actually.
Yeah. And if you don't have bylaws or statutes or something that limit your board terms, you really need to have them in place for exactly that reason, that you can rotate through on people that are not delivering, or are just argumentative for argumentative's sake. You sometimes run into those kinds of people. So, surprised, eh? So making sure that you're getting the people that can, and it doesn't mean that the board has to agree all the time, right? It's good to have multiple opinions coming in, and it's good to have some unrest in the board where people have different opinions and want to try different things. That tension is good. But then if you have that purpose, like if you have that plan figured out and you know what your members are saying or what your population is saying, that is often how you solve that tension, rather than taking it personally and letting everybody get a little bit too emotionally involved and taking things too personally.
I'll just add that one of our issues is sometimes the members have a pet project. The board has a pet project that they want you to stop and do, and it's very exciting when the 8 or 9 board members, but we got like other stuff that is like way more important than your little pet project.
Yes, exactly. And that's going back to the patient population, and saying, you know what, this is what's really going to have the bigger impact.
But actually, one problem is that we need a board, and there aren't so many
People volunteering.
For the board.
Yeah.
So there are some, but they tend to be more and more that really want to do something. But still kind of a problem.
Yeah. And
But we are moving forward,
Yeah.
and next time it will be even better.
yes. And you know, your board is just like anything else, where you're going to end up with a small number of people that do most of the work, right? And that's just true of anything, like that 80-20 rule, like, you know, 80% of your money will come from 20% of your donors. 80% of the work on your board is coming from 20% of your board members. And so if you're that board person that's really active, good. But you can't be upset at other people. You know, keep that framework in mind that you're always going to run into people, and you have to find those really special people that are willing to put in that extra effort and time. And otherwise, you know, I know it's a struggle, but that's always going to be true, no matter how great the volunteer looks like when you try to recruit them.
Yeah, when your constitution allows that. Yes, and that was very clever to consult the members, because you have all those members, and you can contact with them regularly. That is a great advantage.
Yeah.
That was really, really clever to have their feedback. If you don't have all the emails and contacts, you cannot do that.
Lydia?
Did you always have the politicians' interest? Like we have a challenge where our politicians are excluding us. They're saying, you know, why do you want to know what's on the public procurement for the new medication? So we can't get them involved. And what we have found is, because we're speaking the truth, we're getting blocks from the politicians, from the Ministry of Health. Was it always that they were willing to come to the table, or was there work around getting them to come to the table?
I would say the politicians more than gladly come to the table. Yeah, the politicians. But the people from the, what would you say, that are working,
Bureaucracy?
yeah, they don't want to come to the table.
So
Yeah.
if
That
we
easy
did a march like what they did in New Zealand, they would literally shut my organisation down, and I would not be able to exist. But I would love to, if somebody can give me ideas how to combat that. Like we had our blood cancer awareness press conference, and we've had obstructions with that because they announced new drugs, but they didn't say that in that announcement, well, it's restricted access, not everybody's going to get it. So when we announced, yes, there are new drugs, but this and this is what's happened, so we actually got obstructions for that. They cancelled our press release for the media not to come to our event. So if anybody can help with that, give me some ideas on how to tackle that, I would really welcome it.
There's probably a piece around stakeholder engagement and working with stakeholders and building relationships there. I mean,
And pushing the message out in other ways.
whole
Yeah.
piece around that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I would say that politicians in Sweden, they are really, really happy to be invited to our activities.
They want
and to our
I want coffee, good coffee.
yeah, of course.
And afterwards they appear in the
Okay.
media. They appear in the
Yeah.
That's good for
And
them.
one,
Very much.
yeah. And they want us to be in the to have influence in the cancer plan in Sweden.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not kicking you out, so if you want to stay and continue chatting, you're more than welcome. It is past our session end.